Breaking news, Trump naming his pick to head the Department of Defense. That's the Fox News host Pete Hegseth. Hegseth has been a longtime staunch Trump defender. Here he is back in 2020.
This is a president who has said, I want to make America great again. And he's up against the forces of the left who believe that America was never great.
All right, so you can see exactly where he stands, and he has been consistent in that. Hegseth is an Army veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it comes as the Wall Street Journal, of course, this hour is reporting that the Trump transition team is considering a draft executive order which would establish a quote-unquote warrior board of retired senior military personnel with the power to remove 3- and 4-star officers that they want.
What is happening here? Trump's Pentagon pick is out, and it is a bomb.
It's a doozy, all right.
Pete Hegseth, the Fox News guy.
Yeah. You know, we're diving into this Politico piece today. And
people are losing their minds over this one.
It's definitely a curveball, to say the least. I mean, everyone was expecting some, seasoned defense policy wonk.
Some political heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not someone known for being on TV.
Yeah, and the article really gets at the heart of this. They quote one defense lobbyist who just says flat out, who the fuck is this guy?
Right. I mean, that sums up the initial reaction pretty well.
Pretty much.
It's a job that needs a deep understanding of, these complex policy issues, global relationships, military strategy.
It's not something you just pick up on the fly, right?
Right. You don't just roll into the Pentagon and figure it out as you go.
So, okay, people are freaking out because they're thinking Trump is stacking the Pentagon with loyalists.
Yeah, they're thinking yes man situation.
Exactly.
It's a valid concern,
Yeah.
This pick seems to really prioritize loyalty over traditional qualifications.
And the article highlights these fears that, Hegseth will just be a rubber stamp for Trump's agenda. And that could undo a lot of the policies that were put in place during the Biden administration.
Yeah, there could be major policy shifts coming.
And let's be real, this pick has pissed off the left. Big time. Yeah, fuck you guys. This is what you get for trying to take down Trump.
History feeding into that reaction. The article mentions some of his past actions and statements that are raising some major red flags. Like he advocated for outsourcing veterans' health care.
Which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, this is a very controversial stance. And he was involved in Trump's pardons of those convicted war criminals.
Right. And there was that whole thing with his comments about diversity in the military.
Oh, yeah.
Where he said,
the dumbest phrase on planet Earth in the military is, our diversity is our strength. Yeah, and that directly contradicts the current Pentagon thinking, which emphasizes the importance of diversity and inclusion. They say it's crucial for building a strong, effective fighting force.
So you've got a guy who's potentially going to be in charge of the entire U.S. military who doesn't even believe diversity is a strength. This is going to be a wild confirmation hearing. I can't even imagine.
Oh, yeah, it'll be explosive. The article talks about how Hegseth is charismatic. He's not afraid of confrontation. He's a fighter. You put him in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee, some of whom are already voicing their concerns, and it's going to be must-see TV.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. What about Hegseth's actual background? The article mentions he's a Princeton grad, served in the National Guard, even received a Bronze Star. Does any of that even matter at this point?
Well, it does. It does, but it's clearly being overshadowed by these bigger concerns about his qualifications for this particular role. The Secretary of Defense needs experience, needs a deep understanding of policy, diplomacy, global strategy. Military service is valuable, but it doesn't automatically make you an expert in those things.
And that's what's got everyone so worried. This feels like Trump's playing with fire, putting someone who's more known for, his media presence than his policy expertise in charge of the most powerful military in the world.
It's a gamble, that's for sure. And the potential consequences, as the article lays out, could be significant. So we've talked about the initial shock, but this Politico article really digs into the potential fallout of having Hegseth at the helm of the Pentagon. And
yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It gets messy.
Yeah, we're talking some major potential policy earthquakes. Like the article lists a whole bunch of changes that Hegseth could push for if he actually gets confirmed.
Ooh, yeah, we're talking about reinstating the ban on transgender troops, changes to abortion access for service members, possibly even reopening that whole debate over Confederate-named bases.
And they even mentioned Trump possibly using troops on U.S. soil, which is just...
Yeah, that's a whole other...
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, a whole other can of worms. That's a highly sensitive issue. Huge implications for civil liberties and the military's role. It goes against what a lot of people see as acceptable use of military force.
And it's not just the left that's freaking out either. Even some Republicans are like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah, the article quotes Senator Mike Rounds. He's a Republican on the Armed Services Committee, and he admits he was surprised by the pick and says he wants to learn more about Hegseth's background.
So there's definitely some division even within the party on this one.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a unified front. You've got some Republicans who see Hegseth as this, necessary disruptor, a shake things up kind of guy.
A reformer?
Yeah, reformer. And then you've got others who are just seeing a dangerous lack of experience.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the big picture here. What does this pick tell us about Trump's strategy going into his second term?
Well, it definitely signals a potential doubling down on America first, a more assertive foreign policy, maybe even leaning towards isolationism.
The article mentions Hegseth's criticism of U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts, his advocacy for reducing our military footprint overseas.
Right, and that aligns perfectly with what we heard from Trump during his campaign. Remember those promises about bringing the troops home, avoiding new wars?
America first.
Exactly. It seems like Hegseth is on the same page.
But let's be real. The world is a complicated place. We can't just pretend everything's fine and dandy and pull back from everywhere.
You're right. We have alliances to maintain, threats to address, global challenges like climate change and terrorism that require us to cooperate and be present on the world stage.
So where does Hegseth fit into all of this? Is he just a mouthpiece for Trump, or does he have his own vision?
That's the million-dollar question, right? We won't know for sure until he's actually in the job, but...
If he gets that far.
Yeah, if he gets confirmed. But this Politico piece does give us some clues. They mention Hegseth's been pretty critical of the current military leadership. He's been calling for a shakeup.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, classic Trump playbook. He's also said he wants to refocus the military on its core mission, fighting and winning wars. He says he's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
So basically, he's going to come in and be a major disruptor.
Potentially. The big question is, will that disruption be positive or negative?
Right. Well, the article also mentions that some of Hegseth's former military colleagues have come out to defend his character and qualifications.
Yeah, they talk about his military service, his leadership skills, his understanding of the challenges that service members face.
But then you've got other people who worked with him who paint a completely different picture.
Yeah, they say he's more interested in self-promotion than substance, that he's quick to make these inflammatory statements but doesn't really have the depth to back them up. It's almost like we're talking about two different people.
So it's hard to know what to believe. What's the truth? What will he actually do if he becomes SecDef? It's impossible to know. The article quotes former Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who's no fan of Trump, and he calls this pick, quote, hilariously stupid.
Ouch. Yeah, I think that quote really captures the polarization surrounding this nomination. People are already digging in their heels, taking sides before Hegseth has even had a chance to prove himself.
So we've got competing narratives, political divisions, and a whole lot of uncertainty about what the future holds.
It's a recipe for chaos and unpredictability in U.S. defense policy.
Okay, so what about the political fallout from this? The article says even some Republicans are feeling uneasy about this pick.
Yeah, there are definitely concerns. His lack of experience, his controversial statements, the potential to further politicize the military, which is supposed to be above partisan politics.
Right.
But Trump has shown us that he's willing to blur those lines, and some people are worried that Hegseth will follow suit. It undermines this whole idea that the military is loyal to the Constitution, not to any one party.
And Congress is going to have to take this seriously during the confirmation hearings, which, by the way, are going to be a complete circus.
Oh, yeah. The media is already having a field day with this, and the Democrats are going to grill him on everything. And Hegseth, he's not exactly known for backing down from a fight.
So it'll be must-see TV. But beyond the drama, there are serious policy questions that need to be addressed. What's his vision for the future of the military? How does he plan to handle China, Russia, and other global threats? What about those hot-button issues that are dividing the country, like diversity and inclusion, abortion access for service members, using the military for domestic law enforcement?
These are all questions that deserve answers, and hopefully the hearings will shed some light on those things.
Yeah. But even if he gets confirmed, there's no guarantee he'll be able to implement his vision.
Right. The Pentagon is a massive bureaucracy. It's got its own way of doing things.
And then there's Congress. They have a lot of power over military spending and policy.
So even if Hegseth wants to come in and shake things up, he's going to face a lot of resistance.
This is really just the beginning of a long and complicated story.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you every step of the way.
We'll be back in a flash to explore the global implications of Hegseth's appointment. It's going to be wild.
All right, so we're back.
Time to take this thing global.
Yeah, because this whole Hegseth situation, it's not just playing out in Washington, you know?
It's got international implications.
Exactly. This isn't just an American political drama. The whole world is watching this unfold, and they're wondering what's going to happen with the U.S. military.
Right.
And this Politico article does a good job of highlighting how our allies, especially in Europe, they're feeling uneasy.
Yeah, they haven't forgotten about Trump's first term.
Right. All that questioning NATO, getting cozy with Putin, that America first approach. It really strained those relationships.
And now they're looking at Hegseth, a guy who's known for being on Fox News. He's got these strong America first views, and they're like, here we go again.
Exactly. They're wondering, can we still rely on the U.S.? You know, that's a big question they're grappling with.
Especially with all this stuff going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and the article points out that Hegseth has been pretty critical of NATO. He's called for reducing our military presence overseas.
Which is basically echoing Trump's America First rhetoric.
Exactly, and that has a lot of our allies feeling pretty nervous about their own security.
And meanwhile, China and Russia are probably just sitting back eating popcorn, watching this whole thing unfold.
I mean, chaos in the West, a potentially weakened NATO, a U.S. military that's turning inward. It's like a dream come true for them.
They're seeing this as a chance to kind of step up, challenge U.S. dominance, push their own agendas without as much resistance.
It's a real opportunity for them.
So this whole Hegseth pick, it's not just about one guy. It has the potential to really reshape the global balance of power. And not necessarily in a way that's good for us or our allies.
It's a big deal. It's a reminder that actions have consequences, especially when you're the most powerful country in the world.
What happens here affects everyone.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for the future? That's the big question, isn't it?
That's what everyone wants to know.
Honestly, it's too early to say for sure. This is uncharted territory.
Yeah, Trump's rewriting the rules of the game here.
And it's impossible to predict how it's all going to play out. This Politico article has given us a lot to think about, but it's really just the beginning of the story.
Well, deep divers, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Trump's Pentagon pick. We covered the initial shock waves, the potential impact on the Pentagon itself, and now we've gone global. Hopefully, this has given you a better understanding of just how complicated this situation really is.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. It is. But remember, knowledge is power. So stay informed, stay engaged, and keep asking those tough questions.
And stay curious.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep into the issues that matter.